They shot everyone, even the babies. Pham Thuam, a 30-year-old widow, hid under corpses with her daughter to survive. 6 of her family members were slaughtered that morning. On March 16, 1968, in the hamlet of My Lai 4, more than 500 unarmed Vietnamese villagers were killed by U.S. Army soldiers. Homes were burned, livestock destroyed, and wells poisoned. In just a few hours, the village was wiped out, leaving only bodies in the sun and a handful of survivors whose stories were nearly erased. Yet, somehow this atrocity was almost hidden from the world. How did the U.S. Army turn the massacre of an entire village into a story of victory? And who risked everything to make sure the truth was not buried forever? In the days after the massacre, the U.S. Army released a statement celebrating a major victory at My Lai. Their official reports claimed more than 500 enemy fighters had been killed in a successful operation. Newspapers printed these numbers, and commanders spoke of a dangerous Viet Cong stronghold neutralized by American forces. But the reality was starkly different. What was described as a fierce battle was in fact the mass killing of unarmed villagers, women, children, and the elderly, who never fired a shot. The military's after-action report, signed by Colonel Oran Henderson, was central to this deception. Henderson asserted that only 20 civilians had died, attributing their deaths to crossfire or stray artillery shells. He insisted the operation had gone according to plan, and any civilian casualties were tragic but unavoidable accidents of war. This version of events directly contradicted the warnings from helicopter pilot Hugh Thompson, who had reported seeing American troops firing on civilians and pleaded with commanders to intervene. Henderson's account dismissed these urgent reports, reinforcing the story that My Lai had been a legitimate combat operation with minimal collateral damage. This official narrative was not simply a misunderstanding. At the time, military success was often measured by body counts, and soldiers were encouraged to classify nearly every death as that of an enemy combatant. In My Lai, this system allowed commanders to inflate the numbers and mask the true nature of the violence. The Peers Commission, which later investigated the massacre, found that the Army's reports had been meticulously crafted to hide the scale of the atrocity and shield those responsible from scrutiny. Further up the chain of command, Major Colin Powell, then a young staff officer, was sent to look into rumors of civilian deaths at My Lai. Instead of interviewing survivors or collecting first-hand testimony, Powell interviewed officers at regional headquarters and wrote in his report that he found no evidence to support claims of a massacre. He even stated that relations between American troops and Vietnamese civilians were excellent, ignoring the mounting evidence from eyewitnesses and local officials. These official lies shaped the public understanding of My Lai for months. Reports of a clean victory and minimal civilian harm were repeated and accepted, while the voices of survivors and witnesses were buried. But behind the sanitized headlines, the truth was still alive, held by those who had lived through the violence. Their stories would soon begin to surface, challenging the Army's account and forcing the world to confront what really happened. The reality of My Lai emerges most powerfully through the words of those who survived. Truong Lay, a 30-year-old woman, lost 9 members of her immediate family, including her husband, mother, 3 brothers, and her 17-year-old daughter. During the initial chaos, she was separated from loved ones and forced to crouch in a paddy field with her 6-year-old son, Do Ding Dung. When the shooting began, she pushed him into the mud and shielded him with her body. Later, as she moved through the devastation, she found her daughter mortally wounded, cradled by her dying grandmother. In a final, heartbreaking moment, her daughter said, "Mother, I think I'm very badly injured, maybe I'll die, I don't think I can survive." "You have survived, you had better take little brother away. Please don't stay here as the Americans will shoot you." Truong Lay survived by hiding under corpses, her home reduced to ashes, her family gone. Pham Thuam, also 30, was forced into a ditch with her daughter as soldiers opened fire on the gathered villagers. She hid her child beneath her stomach, whispering for her to stay silent and pretend to be dead. As gunfire tore through the crowd, she lay motionless for hours beneath the bodies covered in blood and flesh. 6 members of her family were lost that day, her father, sister, younger brother, and 3 nephews. When the shooting finally stopped, she managed to crawl out and escape with her daughter, even as soldiers fired at them during their flight. These survivors' stories shattered the official narrative of a clean military victory. Instead of enemy combatants, the victims were unarmed families, their lives and homes destroyed in a matter of hours. The horror described in their testimonies was matched by the visual evidence captured by Ronald Haberle, an Army photographer. His private photos, taken during the massacre, revealed the truth in stark, undeniable detail. Images of bodies in ditches, children and women among the dead. When journalist Seymour Hersh published these photographs alongside survivor accounts, the sanitized version of events collapsed. It was the courage of these witnesses, and those who helped bring their truth to light, that forced the world to reckon with what happened at My Lai. But exposing the massacre took more than testimony and photographs. It required individuals willing to challenge the military's story, even at great personal risk. Some of the most crucial revelations about My Lai began with the determination of Ron Ridenour, a former helicopter door gunner. Although he wasn't present at the massacre, Ridenour heard disturbing first-hand accounts from soldiers who had served in Charlie Company. The stories were detailed and consistent, entire families executed, infants and elders alike, with no sign of enemy resistance. After returning to the United States, Ridenour spent months gathering statements and recollections from those who had witnessed the violence. On March 29, 1969, he compiled his findings into a detailed letter and sent it to members of Congress, the Pentagon, and other officials. His report described the Pinkville incident in stark terms, prompting the Army to launch the Piers investigation, a formal inquiry that began to uncover the extent of the massacre and the subsequent cover-up. Ridenour's actions came at great personal risk. Challenging the military's official narrative meant risking his own reputation and safety, but his persistence broke through the silence, setting off a chain reaction. Seymour Hersh, an investigative journalist, received tips stemming from Ridenour's letter. Hersh began contacting those involved, including Lieutenant William Calley's defense team, and pieced together the events of My Lai. In November 1969, Hersh published a series of reports that described the point-blank murder of Vietnamese villagers. His work, bolstered by the release of Ronald Haberle's private photographs, forced the public to confront the reality behind the Army's sanitized version. Hersh's reporting earned him a Pulitzer Prize and made it impossible for the military's story to hold. The photographic evidence was impossible to ignore. Ronald Haberle's images, unofficial and unfiltered, showed bodies piled in ditches, women and children moments before their deaths, and American soldiers standing over the scene. These photos, paired with survivor accounts and Hersh's articles, brought the truth of My Lai into homes around the world. But resistance to the massacre didn't only come after the fact. During the killing, helicopter pilot Hugh Thompson and his crew saw what was happening from above and intervened directly. Thompson landed his helicopter between American troops and terrified villagers, ordering his gunner to train weapons on the soldiers and threatening to shoot if they continued firing. He and his crew evacuated survivors, saving lives in the midst of chaos. Though Thompson faced backlash and isolation afterward, his actions remain a powerful example of moral courage. Despite the evidence and public outrage, accountability was limited. Only Lieutenant William Calley was convicted, found guilty of murdering 22 villagers. He was sentenced to life in prison, but served just 3.5 years under house arrest before being paroled. For many, this outcome highlighted how justice for the victims of My Lai was incomplete. The story of My Lai's whistleblowers and truth-tellers is not only about the courage to speak out, it's also a reminder that such tragedies were not isolated. The aftermath of My Lai revealed that similar atrocities took place across Quang Ngai province. Later investigations found that other units, including Tiger Force, carried out systematic terror campaigns against villagers, proving that the violence at My Lai was part of a broader pattern, not an isolated event. These findings forced a reckoning with how military operations were conducted and reported, highlighting the urgent need for transparency and oversight. It's up to us to question official accounts, remember the names of those lost, and support efforts for accountability. If there are untold histories or stories you want to learn more about, share them in the comments below. Let's keep these conversations going and honor the memory of those affected.